I love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
What's up guys, Leighton here for UFC Gambling Addicts, back again for another UFC full card breakdown and predictions video. Before we move any further, I just want to say the support you guys showed me on the UFC 249 breakdown and predictions video was absolutely through the roof. Amazing support from you guys. You was using techniques on the like button. So many of you guys were engaging with me, speaking about training, the smoke breaks. The support was amazing. So as always, we're going to move on into this card. We're going to do a quick recap, a very, very quick recap of last night. And we're also going to look at the bets and the profit from last night. So I had £150 coming in on Tony Ferguson. Rule number one here, if we can make money, we're going to make money. So we shifted £50 over to Justin Gaethje TKO, which, to be honest, was looking like the wrong cover. But in that fifth round, Herb Dean, he saw enough, you know. Amazing, amazing main event war. If Tony Ferguson didn't have CTE before that fight, he definitely has CTE now. Just an amazing main event. So we're going to quickly go through that card and recap it. The first fight of the night, Ryan Spann and Sam Alvey. Pretty decent fight to start the card. Ryan Spann using his length. Sam Alvey on the back foot looking for the classic counter punch. Good fight. Little bit, you know, surprised it was a split. I felt Ryan Spann round one and round two. But then again, you look at Sam Alvey for two minutes towards the end of round one, you can kind of see how that round could have gone to him. Bryce Mitchell, what can you say? Relentless, dominant performance from Bryce Mitchell. Credit to Charles Rosa for not giving up, but Bryce Mitchell, very impressive. Vicente Luque and Nico, that was an amazing fight. I actually haven't seen Fight of the Night, but I'm assuming that has to be up there. You know, that was an amazing war from both guys. Carla and Michelle Waterson, that one was a little bit, you know, a little slower, a little more boring, a lot of space between both fighters. Some of you guys feel Michelle Waterson won that fight. Some of you may feel Carla. It was a very, very close fight in all three rounds. Very similar. So hard time for the judges in that fight. Alexei Oleinik and Verdum. Alexei Oleinik performed like we've never seen him perform inside the octagon. Throwing haymaker after haymaker. You have to give credit to Alexei in that fight. Verdum started very slow. In the third round, it looked a lot better, but you know, that time away from the octagon really did play a part. But you can't take credit away from Alexei. Pettis and Cerrone. This was a really good fight. I actually felt Donald Cerrone done well in this fight, man. For over 15 minutes. Yeah, I felt Donald Cerrone done well, but Pettis as well also, you know, performed fairly well. So either way, 29-28 for either guy, I felt could have been the right decision. I did feel Donald Cerrone more 29-28 than Pettis, but you can't really argue. Good fight. Greg Hardy and Castro. Castro hurt his foot, quite inactive for the last 8 minutes or so. Greg Hardy showing that athletic ability that he has, you know, really moves well inside the octagon. He's a big guy. Calvin Kattar, finish of the night without a doubt. That car crashing elbow was something beautiful. You know, it's a beautiful thing to watch. Jeremy Stevens was fighting really well as well, you know, investing in that low kick, looking really good in that first round. But Calvin Kattar, man, that elbow was just so nasty beautiful, as we say on this channel. Francis Ngannou, most of us knew it would be very, very quick in that first round. That guy is made in a lab. He's a movie character. Henry Cejudo and Dom Cruz, I have no arguments with that stoppage. Joe Rogan, a little bit emotional when it happened, but you know, Dom Cruz and Joe Rogan are good friends. Cejudo, man, you have to give so much credit to this guy. I don't know how I feel about him retiring. I don't know if that's the right move. I feel he has a lot to give inside the octagon still, but yeah, that knee, Henry Cejudo's knee to put down Dom Cruz, the follow-up strikes, no complaints with that stoppage in my opinion. The referee's job is to protect the fighters, not allow the fighters to be warriors. The ref is there to protect the fighter when the fighter cannot protect themselves anymore, and that stoppage was okay in my opinion. Main event, what can we say? Amazing war, you know, just both guys refusing to quit. Tony Ferguson targeting the body of Gaethje. Gaethje starting to target the legs, the hooks, the uppercuts, the overhands. Both guys just, you know, really put it out there. And you have to give so much credit to Justin Gaethje. After that second round, it looked like Gaethje was going to start to slow down. But third round, he didn't. You know, he started to land some more significant strikes. And Tony was starting to wear it. And I've already seen a picture online that says Tony Ferguson looked like he fought Tony Ferguson. So that is the level in which Justin Gaethje performed. Now the cover bet, I had the cover bet on Gaethje TKO, which was looking like the wrong cover bet. But, you know, Herb Dean, he saw enough towards the end of that fifth round. Massive credit to Justin Gaethje. Okay, let's get into this card because there's a few fights on this card that are very hard to predict. So we're going to try our best here. Fight number 1 on this card, we have Chase Vanilla Gorilla Sherman versus IK Hurricane Villanueva. And we're going to start with Chase Sherman. So Chase comes into this fight 2 wins, 5 losses inside the UFC, making his return fight. It's been roughly a year and a half since we last saw Chase Sherman fight inside the octagon. With that time off, he's actually competed in bare knuckle boxing. Looking at Chase as a heavyweight fighter, in my opinion, his cardio isn't good enough. That first round is always his best round. Becomes quite fatigued after 5 or 6 minutes of fighting. The opponent, IK Villanueva, comes into this fight 16-9 as a pro, making his UFC debut. For those of you who don't know or haven't seen much tape of this guy, let me tell you, this guy's fought at middleweight, heavyweight and light heavyweight. He's got some good experience in fighting different types of body frames, different types of speed and power. IK is primarily a stand and bang type of guy. He's had some very nice performances in his pro career. His most recent one coming against Rashad Coulter got it done with ease pretty much in the first round. This is a tough fight to predict. I don't feel confident on either side. Chase Sherman does have more experience in fighting better competition. But like I said earlier, IK has experience with different types of fighters. And that may play a factor here. Chase will be the bigger and longer guy in this fight. He should use his jab, look to keep IK at distance. Whereas IK should probably look to close the distance, rip to the body and try to land a big hook up top. It's a tough one to predict. But I'm going to take the newcomer here. I'm going to take IK Villanueva via TKO in round number 2. And I haven't seen any odds yet, guys, so I'm going to be checking the odds with you for the first time. We have Chase Sherman coming in -130, the favourite. Villanueva coming back +105, +115, +110. Yeah, man, it's a tough one to start the card because when you look at Sherman's career in the UFC, you're not too impressed, 2-5. But he has fought better competition. He is going to be the bigger guy. Maybe the better boxer. But Villanueva, man, has the speed, has the experience fighting different types of people. And I just feel more confident on the plus money here. So I am going to take Villanueva to start this card. Fight number 2 on this card, and this is a very decent matchup. We have Hunter Azure versus Brian Boom Kelleher, and we're going to start with Hunter. So Hunter comes into this fight 1-0 inside the UFC. Also fought on the Contender Series. Hunter is primarily a wrestler inside the octagon. His Contender Series and UFC debut show us that. He's a strong wrestler who's looking to bully you inside the octagon. Some of you guys may feel Brad Katona deserved the win a little bit more than Hunter, but it was a very, very close fight. And when you're wrestling here and there throughout a round, you know, when you're looking to take down your opponent in close rounds, that can really sway a judge to give you that round. And that's what Hunter is all about. He's looking to wrestle you, put a pace on you. He's looking to test how strong, how physically strong you are, how much determination you have. That is what Hunter is all about. Brian Kelleher comes into this fight 4-3 inside the UFC, primarily a grappler inside the octagon, more of a BJJ guy than a wrestler. So Kelleher's going to use jiu-jitsu on the mat, whereas Hunter more wrestling orientated. Pretty much all of Brian's fights have been really fun fights to watch. Whether he wins or loses, it's always a good watch. His most recent fight against Ode Osborne really showed us Brian Kelleher is no pushover. He was up against a much quicker guy in the striking department, and he was able to stick to a clear game plan that insisted of Brian taking down Ode, searching for a sub, and that's exactly what happened. Hunter and Brian are both good grapplers. You know, wrestling versus jiu-jitsu. Sometimes the wrestler wins, sometimes the BJJ is able to win. If we're looking at who's the veteran in this fight, without a doubt it's Brian. But I feel Hunter is a good prospect, man. He's a strong wrestler with a good gas tank, and he's going to keep pushing a hard pace. It may be one of those situations where TJ Grant kept taking down Jordan Griffin right up until he gets subbed, or it may be Brian doesn't end up finding the sub. It's a really, really tough fight to picture in your head. But I'm going to take the wrestler in this one. I really like Hunter as a prospect. So for those reasons, I feel he will be able to take down Brian, potentially stay out of a submission. You know, that's going to go a long way for a win. So yeah, Hunter Azure via decision. And we take a look at some odds with that matchup. We have Brian Kelleher coming in plus 145, plus 150. Hunter returning minus 165, minus 170. So a little bit of money going into Hunter there. And I can see why. You know, I believe he actually trains out of Fortis or MMA Lab, one of those. You know, really good prospect, man. Good wrestler, good gas tank, physically strong. He will be improving fight by fight as well with his striking. So for me, Hunter is going to be my play in that fight. Man, this is another very, very good fight. I'm sure we're going to be split on this fight. We have Gabriel Mogli Benitez versus Omar Morales. And we're going to start with the Mexican. So Benitez comes into this fight 5 wins, 3 losses inside the UFC, training out of Team AKA. So for those who don't know, that's the training camp of Habib and Daniel Cormier, and a lot of other very, very good fighters too. Benitez is naturally a 145er, stepping up to 155 in this fight. Looking at his career at 45, he hasn't done too bad, hasn't done the best either. You know, it's a bit back and forth with Benitez at 145. Benitez did suffer a loss in his last fight to Sadiq Youssef. But if you guys go back and rewatch that fight, Benitez was actually able to stun and hurt Youssef at one point. And we know how good of a kickboxer Sadiq Youssef is. You know, very, very good power, very good technique. And if you can hurt a guy like that, you know, you have to say to yourself, that guy's a good striker. Benitez does have very, very decent boxing. And to hurt Sadiq Youssef kind of backs up my point, you know. He's not a bad guy at all. The opponent, Omar Morales, comes into this fight 1-0 inside the UFC. Also fought on the Contender Series, where he had a very, very nice performance against Harvey Price. A lot of nice low kicks and powerful, powerful punches landing up top. In his UFC debut, again, in my opinion, a very, very composed performance. Omar is only 8-0 in his fight career. He's still learning a lot. He's green. However, the power difference, in my opinion, could be the factor in this fight. Benitez may be more experienced with better, more technical striking, but Omar is hungry and he has more power. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Omar Morales via TKO in round number 2. And we try to get some odds here. We have Benitez coming in plus 130, plus 125. Omar returning minus 150, minus 145. I actually felt this line would be a little bit closer, and I'm quite surprised some money's going into Omar, but at the same time, you know, that makes me happy because that's what I feel. I do feel Omar, despite being greener, way greener than Gabriel Benitez, Omar seems to perform in a composed manner and has very good power. And if Sodiq Yusuff is able to hurt Benitez, we have to say to ourselves, Omar may not be the technician, but he does have power. And if you can land that strike, I see Omar finishing this fight. So minus 150, I'm willing to play that line. Sijara, Sarge, Eubanks versus Sarah, Cheesecake, Morris. And we're going to start with Sijara Eubanks. So Sarge comes into this fight 2-2 inside the UFC. Primarily a grappler inside the octagon, a black belt in BJJ, and a very strong wrestler to go with her jiu-jitsu. As a striker, I wouldn't say she's at her best there, but I definitely wouldn't count her striking out. I've really noticed with Sijara Eubanks, she's a much better fighter when she's coming forward, dictating the dance. When she's tired and moving back, like she was against Beth Correa and even against Aspen Ladd in the 3rd round, you know, she's losing those moments. I even took Beth Correa as a big underdog against Sijara, purely because I noticed when Sijara tires and she starts to move back and backpedals a lot, her defensive boxing isn't good. You know, in that 1st round, powerful boxing, you know, dictates the dance, comes forward, looks really good with her grappling, her wrestling. You know, she's a very strong athlete overall. But when she gets a little fatigued, you can see the holes in her game. The opponent, Sarah Morris, comes into this fight 3 wins, 4 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a jiu-jitsu practitioner and quite a good one too. She's got a win in her last fight against a European prospect in Liana Jojua. In that performance, she did what she's always done. Look to take down the opponent, land some nice ground and pound, and look to work towards a submission. If she isn't feeling advancing position, she'll simply keep you down, hold you down, and look to beat you up. Stylistically, we have 2 grapplers facing up against each other here. Both of these fighters are good wrestlers and good with their jiu-jitsu too. So it's hard to be confident in either lady. Eubanks does suffer with her conditioning, like I said earlier. When she becomes tired and starts to circle, backpedal a little more, she really isn't a dangerous fighter anymore. On the flip side, I would still say Sarah Morris, it is probably worse defensively, you know. Sarah Morris eats a lot of shots on the feet, and Sarge has pretty powerful boxing in that 1st round at least. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Sijara Eubanks via decision. And we're going to take a look at some odds in that matchup if I can find them. We have Eubanks coming in minus 300, minus 320. Sarah Morris coming back plus 250, plus 260. Yeah, I disagree with the line. I'd say the line is very off by 100 at least. You know, if I'm picturing Sijara Eubanks a favourite, man, it's maybe minus 200 to get up to minus 340. You know, and gassing out the way she did against Beth Correa. The 1st round looked very good. You know, the 1st round for Sijara Eubanks looks pretty good all the time. You'd assume she's maybe working on her fatigue in fights. So, yeah, minus 340, minus 320 is a little too much. but I am going to stick with the favourite there and probably not play her in any bets. Fight number 5, we have Michael the Menace Johnson versus Thiago Moises. And we're going to start with the striker. Michael Johnson comes into this fight 11 wins, 11 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a boxer, a striker inside the octagon. This will be his 23rd pro fight. I was going to say Michael Johnson was the last guy to beat Tony Ferguson, also the last guy to lose to Darren Elkins. But as we know from last night, Michael Johnson is not the last guy to beat Tony Ferguson anymore. But that's what you're going to get with Michael Johnson, man. He can perform very, very well to the level where he can beat a guy like Tony. Granted, it was a few years ago, and Tony's become, such a better fighter over those years. We can't take away from Michael Johnson. He's a very, very good boxer. Fights out of that southpaw stance, uses a lot of combinations. But at the same time, when you lose to guys like Darren Elkins and Stevie Ray, although I felt he did beat Stevie Ray, if it's that close, not much confidence can go into Michael Johnson at this point. Even against Josh Emmett, right? Performing very, very well, using his boxing, his movement, looking good, looking like he's about to win over a 15-minute period, and then he just gets slept. That is the fight game. And Michael Johnson, to put much confidence in him, isn't the smartest thing you can do when you're betting on MMA fights. The opponent, Thiago Moises, comes into this fight 1 win, 2 losses inside the UFC. A Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. Thiago hasn't really impressed me too much in his first 3 UFC fights. It's clear to see his path though. He wants you on the mat. If you have good takedown defense, if your movement and striking ability is good enough, Thiago Moises will struggle to implement his game plan, which is taking you down. Striker versus grappler. When I watch Thiago strike, I don't feel like he can match the boxing or the speed of Michael Johnson. When I look at Michael Johnson grappling with Stevie Ray and Darren Elkins, I absolutely don't see him surviving with Thiago on the mat. So this literally comes down to who can implement their will more than their opponent. I did say you can't be too confident in Michael Johnson, but I'm still going to take him here. If he's got the grappling in with this training camp, if he's grappled a lot, takedown defense, I think he could keep this fight upright, and maybe a similar type of performance where Cub for Kron Gracie. If you can just keep the fight standing, keep the fight in your world, I think Michael Johnson could win this fight. So for those reasons, I'm going to take MJ via decision. And we try to get some odds for that one. Yeah, the line for this fight is perfect. Because when you think about Moises striking with Michael, you don't see good things. But when you see Michael grappling with Thiago, you don't see good things. And that's exactly why we have -115 on both sides. So pick your poison with this line. Don't be too confident in either side, in my opinion. Maybe just watch this one as a fan. But at the same time, when those lines are the same, you have to play them. And I am going to play Michael Johnson at least once. Fight number 6 on this card. We have Andre, the Pitbull Arlovski versus Philippe Lins. And we're going to start with the veteran Arlovski. So Arlovski comes into this fight 17 wins, 13 losses, 1 no contest inside the UFC. In other words, this will be his 32nd UFC fight, his 48th pro fight overall. Arlovski has been fighting now for over 20 years. It's fair to say his mileage is very, very high. His ability to take a punch isn't great anymore. Even when Andre Arlovski performs well inside the octagon, I feel like he doesn't get the credit he deserves, right? So some of you may now think, well, what fight are you talking about? I felt he performed quite well against Sakai. Stick and move type of performance for 15 minutes. And the judges didn't see that and didn't score the fight in his favour. Arlovski, in a way, almost has to put the opponent out to get a win these days. The opponent, Philippe Lins, comes into this fight 14 wins, 3 losses as a pro, making his UFC debut. Training out of American Top Team, Philippe Lins seems very, very dangerous with his hands. I just got done re-watching some of his PFL fights and I was very, very impressed with his boxing. Real power in his hands. He also has the ability to put you in the tie clinch, land some really nasty knees. I like how well-rounded this guy looks. Even his ability to take you down, test your BJJ on the mat. Philippe Lins does not discriminate when it comes to finding holes in your game. This is still a tough pick to make though. Despite how much damage Arlovski has taken, his experience could play a huge role in him winning this fight. But like I pointed out earlier, I feel Arlovski circles well, doesn't take too much damage, and still, doesn't get the recognition from the judges when he does perform that way. And that's because Arlovski does, he has to engage and land his own significant strikes too. Even when he's using this stay on your bike, stick and move type of performance, he has to engage. So for me, the dictator in this fight will be Philippe Lins. I think he's going to control the octagon. For that reason, I see him landing more significant strikes with his boxing. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Philippe Lins via TKO in round number 2. And we take a look at some odds, if I can find them. Arlovski coming in plus 135, plus 130. Philippe Lins minus 155, minus 160. Yeah, I agree with that line. I mean, Arlovski, small underdog, which is right, because he does have the experience. He does have the know-how to win this fight. But Philippe Lins can crack, man. He's got some real punching power, good kicking, dictates the movement very well. Tie clinch, grappling, BJJ. I like the look of Philippe Lins, and at minus 150, I'm willing to play him. Fight number 7, another very, very good fight on this card, man, and a tough one to predict and imagine inside your head before you've even seen it. Carl Baby K Roberson versus Marvin, the Italian Dream, Vettori, and we're going to start with Carl Roberson. So Carl comes into this fight 4 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC, primarily a kickboxer inside the octagon, and quite a good one too. We look at Carl's UFC career so far, the wins over Darren Stewart, Wellington Turman, most recently Roman Kopylov. The weakness in Roberson is probably his grappling, but at the same time, we have to acknowledge that he has worked on that. We look at his last fight and he gets it done via rear naked choke. So Carl Roberson is actively working to becoming a better fighter. That's what all of these pro fighters are doing. They're building on what they're good at and the things that they're not good at, the areas where they're getting exposed. They're looking to improve those areas, and we have to sit down and say Carl Roberson has improved that area of his fight game. The opponent, Marvin Vettori, comes into this fight 4 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw inside the UFC, training out of King's MMA, a very, very respected camp. For those of you who think you remember who Vettori is, or for those of you who don't really know who Vettori is, this guy claims he is a real Italian, not a fake Italian. Now, I don't know how that's even considered relative to breaking down this fight. So, yeah, Vettori, let's look at his MMA ability, right? Personally, I feel Vettori is a very well-rounded fighter. Although it was about 3 years ago, Vettori has been the closest fighter to beating Israel Adesanya, in my opinion, right? Some of you guys may say when Kelvin Gastelum rocked him, that was the closest we've ever seen Adesanya come to losing. But in my opinion, it was Vettori, right? Vettori, in a 3-round fight, was able to take down Adesanya, keep him down, use good footwork on the feet, had a very close fight with arguably one of the best fighters inside the octagon at the moment in Israel Adesanya. So Vettori's game, man, you look at how well-rounded he is. The boxing, the grappling, the movement, the confidence, conditioning. Everywhere you look at Marvin Vettori, you're seeing like a 7 out of 10 pretty much. Same type of thing for a guy like Arnold Allen. You know, these guys aren't, you don't think of an Arnold Allen or a Marvin Vettori and say, wow, that guy's going to be champion. But when you do think about them and their fighting ability, there's not really much you can criticize, right? They're very well-rounded guys. This is a really, really good matchup. Both of these guys are good strikers. And like I said, as for the grappling, I don't see a clear advantage in that area for either fighter. Carl Roberson has improved there, and Marvin Vettori's not really looked bad there at all. It's going to be interesting to see who engages with the grappling and the takedowns at any point. I'd probably say Vettori may mix it up a little bit and look for a takedown. Carl Roberson is a very good kicker. A better kicker, in my opinion, than Marvin Vettori. But then it comes down to the boxing and the confidence and the know-how. And I think Marvin Vettori may just edge Carl Roberson in those areas. So for those reasons, I'm going to side with Marvin Vettori in most likely a very, very close fight. So I'm going to take Vettori via decision. And the odds in that matchup: Vettori minus 160, minus 155. Roberson plus 140, plus 130, plus 150. Yeah, man, the odds could be a little bit closer because Carl Roberson is, you know, he's no pushover. That guy's a good kickboxer. Marvin Vettori, though, just feel a little bit more confidence, a little more hunger on Marvin's end. All right, my homies, you know what time it is. And you know what? Some of you guys on the 249 breakdown were very surprised. Some of you guys didn't know what time it was. I had so many comments that said, as soon as this guy hit the smoke break, I subbed. As soon as this guy did this, I subbed. It was like, man, I'm picking up a lot of people viewing this breakdown and predictions video that haven't been here before. You know, is that because this is the only sport on right now? I don't know. But a lot of you guys, you know, didn't know about the smoke breaks, you know, and I know so many of you right now are thinking, man, I've been here for 50 plus smoke breaks, you know, and I love you guys, you know, the guys that have been here from the start, week in, week out, I love you. If you found this channel last week, I love you, you know, I love doing this, guys. I love breaking down fights. And I want to mention again, right, the amount of support that you guys showed me on the 249 card. It means so much. It means so much, man. So many of you engaging regarding BJJ training, Muay Thai training, boxing. And, you know, I know you guys listen to the smoke breaks, and I think to myself, maybe a few people will mention training, but there were so many of you, and it was overwhelming, to be honest. You know, you guys surprised me with the love you showed this channel. You know, some of you saying, I can't wait to see this channel grow. And some of you said that 2,000 subs ago, you know, and some of you are saying that now. You know, it feels good to break down fights, do what you love, and have so many people come and show their support because they're enjoying it too. That makes me want to do this, you know, that makes me want to do this even when I'm training, even if life gets a bit different. For a year from now, 2 years from now, I'm going to keep doing this because I love this game. And I did mention at the start of this video, you know, normally I show comments, right? And I'll read your guys' comments out. But there was over 300. There was over 300 comments, man. And it's like, how do I even pick out my favorite comments there? Because so many of you guys are saying, you know, I'm doing this to the like button, I'm doing that to the like button. So many funny comments, so many comments regarding fights, bets, Yeah, the community is growing video by video, and obviously it has slowed down for 8 weeks because there's been no fights. But to return with a card like that and get the support you guys showed me, man, it makes me feel very, very happy. That's all I can say. Yeah, I have the best community on YouTube with this fight game stuff and prediction, you know. Obviously there's tons of good YouTubers who break down fights, predict fights. I love their communities too, you know. I like to participate, show them love too, shoot out head kicks on their videos for the like button. But man, my community, you guys are top notch. I hope you guys are having a beautiful smoke break. Most of you smoke throughout the whole video. Some of you wait to the smoke break to chill with me. But yeah, man, I hope you're liking this breakdown and predictions video. I am trying to be more precise with my thoughts and feelings regarding these fights. You know, I'm not trying to ramble as much. I'm trying to give you more of a, you know, this is how I feel. I want to say it within 2 or 3 minutes type of thing. Because, you know, there is going to be arguments to everything I say. Because, you know, some of you guys even leave comments and you say, listen, I head kicked the like button, but I disagreed on a few things. And that's completely normal, right? If you agreed with every single fight of mine, I'd say you're not doing your own research. You know, you're not looking into the fights yourself. I appreciate that you guys find my opinion valuable, you know, whether that's because I post bets and show my success with the fights that I bet on. Because anyone can say, yo, I made $500. I made, you know, anyone can say that. Next week I can say I made $300, $400 and not show one bet slip. But I want to keep it real here, guys. You know, for the people who have been here for some time, you've heard me come on this channel before and say, listen, I made a loss. I broke even. I made a small loss. I made a big loss. And I'm sure many times you've seen me come on here and say, listen, this was a beautiful, beautiful card. And we made a lot of money. Or we made a small amount of money. I'm always going to keep it real with you guys. You know, and I hope we can make some more profit. We got £150 profit on the 249 card. Even with Tony Ferguson losing in that main event. I like to do smart betting here, guys, right? So if we can hedge our bets, if we have 150, 160 coming in on Tony, let's take a gamble now. Let's not let it ride. Let's gamble again. Let's put some money on Justin Gaethje TKO. And even if we're wrong with the TKO, we're trying to cover ourselves again. And it was close to a decision. But ultimately, we made the right decision in the Gaethje TKO. So as always, guys, you know, leave your comments down below regarding bets, parlays, singles, prop bets, all of this. I want to engage because we had a nice card on 249 and I want to have another nice card here. Wednesday night, we're going to add to that money train. Okay, guys, keep smoking up. If you're not a smoker, do your thing too, you know, whatever it is. I'm going to get back to predicting these fights. Man, this is another very, very good fight. We have Ray, the Mexican Devil Borg versus Ricky Simón. And we're going to start with the veteran, Ray Borg. So Ray comes into this fight, 7 wins, 4 losses inside the UFC. A guy we know very, very well. A relentless wrestler, a brawler, a guy who's going to push a pace and look to take your soul. You know, I felt I said that about Hunter earlier, but Ray Borg has proven it time and time again inside the octagon. You know, Ray Borg is looking to take you down. He's looking to wrestle, scramble. And when he sees that you're fatigued, he's going to feed off that because Ray isn't going to stop. He's going to keep going. He wants to be in a grueling contest. And we see evidence against Gabriel Silva and Bontorin. Those are his most recent fights. Very, very good performances. Ricky Simón comes into this fight 3 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a wrestler inside the octagon. Borg is coming off 2 wins, like I said. Ricky is coming off 2 losses. His most recent performance was against Rob Font. And for those of you who remember that fight, or for those of you who didn't see that fight, Rob Font just pretty much outclassed him. The boxing ability, the footwork, the ability to stay on his feet and not get, taken down and held down by Ricky Simón was really the factor for Rob Font. So yeah, coming off 2 losses, Ricky Simón. Ray Borg coming off 2 wins. Styles make fights. Both of these guys are very, very good wrestlers, and they both have very good conditioning too. Honestly, to pick this fight is pretty impossible in my opinion. To say who the better wrestler is, I'd be guessing. Ray Borg has been using the same style pretty much his whole UFC career. Could he impose that grueling style on Ricky? Maybe he could. But Ricky is bigger than Ray, and he also loves to use that grueling style. And that's what makes this fight such a tough fight to predict. A little bit like if we think about Bryce Mitchell and Rosa from last night. Prior to that fight, we felt, well, both of these guys are good grapplers. Is Bryce going to take down Rosa? And Bryce, he shined there. And then we think about Fabricio and Alexi. Both of these guys are grapplers. Are they going to grapple? Alexi was happy to grapple, and Verdum looked like he wanted to grapple more than strike. So this is going to be another fight where who's going to be more happy to grapple? Is there a much better grappler here? My opinion is going to be the bigger guy. I'm going to take Ricky Simón here to end the losing streak and potentially win a very, very close decision against Ray Borg. And we take a look at some odds. We have Ray Borg coming in plus 145, plus 150. Little bit surprised with that. Ricky Simón coming back minus 165, minus 170. The line should be a little bit closer. But yeah, man, styles make fights. Both of these guys are very good wrestlers, not really strikers. If you're asking me who the better striker is, once again, that's hard. Maybe Ray Borg, defensively a better striker, doesn't leave many opportunities for his opponents to hit him, whereas Ricky Simón, we have seen in a couple fights, he does leave himself open here and there on the feet. But my pick is going to be Ricky Simón. What a fight this is. And for those of you who listen to these breakdowns, for those who have watched this sport longer than me, or for those who are just getting into this sport and don't know too much about it, or maybe know enough to be able to listen to the fights, all of you guys are at different stages, right? But I hope, right, for those of you who are going to understand this fight, above a beginner level, I hope you guys understand how hard it is to pick this fight. Drew Dober versus Alexander the Great Hernandez. This is a great fight. We're going to start with Drew Dober. He comes into this fight 8 wins, 5 losses, 1 no contest inside the UFC, fighting out of Elevation Fight Team, which is a very decent camp. Drew has had some very, very impressive wins in his career. Most importantly, his last fight. All the hype surrounding Nasrat, and Drew was able to display beautiful, composed striking in that fight. Really showed us he's not just a gatekeeper. He's a solid fighter. Even in his loss to Beneil Dariush, I felt he showed us his potential again in that fight. Right up until the point where he was subbed, I felt pretty much Drew Dober competed everywhere. Looked very, very good. Drew Dober is a top tier fighter. The opponent, Alex Hernandez, comes into this fight 3-1 inside the UFC, primarily a wrestler inside the octagon. Alex possesses great athletic attributes. His power and speed of his takedown entries, his work ethic is very clear to see inside his UFC fights so far to date. Now, most of you guys may think, well, what about the Donald Cerrone fight? What about the Trinaldo fight? Where's the work ethic there? Where's what you're talking about there? Now, Donald Cerrone is a veteran, right? Donald Cerrone was able to time him with knees. He was able to teach Alex Hernandez a lesson that most fighters, pretty much every fighter, gets taught on their way up through their career. Now, you look at the fight against Ronaldo, that to me was more disappointing than the Donald Cerrone fight, but it's understandable too. So when you have a setback loss, the way Alex did, the confidence drops, right? You see the result of that loss. You know, Alex backpedaled against Ronaldo all fight, really didn't engage. And to be honest with you, very, very lucky to get the win on that night. Drew Dober has proven to us he's a very composed, intelligent striker. But then we flip it around. Alex Hernandez has proven he's a good wrestler, athletically gifted, and he will search for takedown after takedown against Drew. This is a really, really tough decision to make, but I'm going to take the wrestler in this one. Maybe a couple takedowns every round in close rounds could secure Alex the win in this fight. But like I said to start the breakdown off, it's near impossible to be confident in this one, because if you understand both of these fighters and your respect for both of these fighters is at the level where it should be, you're going to have a hard time being confident in making a pick. But my pick is going to be the wrestler, Alex Hernandez, via decision. And look at the odds, man. The odds really reflect how I feel about this fight. Hernandez minus 105, minus 110, plus 101. Drew Dober minus 115, minus 112, minus 120, minus 110. The odds are very close because both of these guys are very gifted, and either guy could win. You know, Drew has really nice striking. His last fight against Nasrat, it was an art to watch. It really was. Alex Hernandez, has he overcame that hump against Ronaldo, right? He had the setback, and then we saw he didn't perform too well because of that loss. Has he overcome that mental block? I'm going to say hopefully he has. My money's going to be on Hernandez in this spot. Co-main event, we have OSP versus Ben Rothwell, and we're going to start with the veteran. Both of them are veterans, so we're going to start with OSP. Ovin St. Preux comes into this fight 12 wins, 8 losses inside the UFC, primarily a striker inside the octagon. Although, when you have a submission named after you, I guess you're a grappler inside the octagon too. OSP specialises at shoving the shoulder into the windpipe and putting you to sleep. Just like Bryce Mitchell specialises now in the twister. You know, when you think twister, you think Bryce Mitchell. When you think Von Flue, you think OSP. It's fair to say OSP is out of his prime. I do believe he is out of his prime. He has slowed down quite a bit. Damage starting to add up. But he's a veteran. You know, he's seen it all. He can do it all. Credit to OSP for still being a hard guy to beat inside the octagon. The opponent, Ben Rothwell, comes into this fight 7-6 inside the UFC. I mean, what can you even say for Ben Rothwell? Looking at his last fight, I don't want to make excuses for Stefan Struve, but Stefan was performing well right up into those groin strikes. You know, Stefan was using some good kicks, good movement before Ben landed those strikes. But at the same time, I mean, you have to give credit to Ben Rothwell, man. It doesn't matter. I mean, well, it does matter, right? It's a foul. If you kick someone in the groin, it's a foul. But at the same time, Ben still had to put Stefan up against the fence and land some significant strikes. And that's what he done. You know, despite the fouls, Ben Rothwell was able to concentrate on the plan ahead and he got it done in there. So credit to Ben too. Either of these guys have the ability to win this fight. Ben purely because he has some solid power, good movement, quite jerky in his hand motions, feints a lot. And if he can get OSP up against the fence, you know, he could land a nasty overhand or a big bomb. But on the other hand, OSP has great kicking ability. And he may look for a takedown here or there, especially as the fight goes on and both guys become fatigued. This is a co-main event that I do feel we're going to be split on. I haven't seen the odds for this co-main yet. You know, if you said to me now, rate what your community would be saying for this fight, I really think most of you guys are going to be taking both sides. You know, there's going to be a lot of you guys on Ben, a lot of you guys on OSP, and you can make arguments for both sides. But the bottom line is, both of these guys are veterans, and both of these guys have the ability to win this fight. For me, I'm going to have to take OSP. I just feel if he can get into a nice kicking rhythm, avoid the big strike, don't end up against the fence, which he does a lot. I just feel more confident being on OSP than Ben Rothwell. So for those reasons, I'm going to take OSP via decision. Now I'm going to take a look at some odds at this fight because I am quite interested to see what the line is saying. Yeah, a close one. Ben Rothwell plus 130, plus 125, plus 120. OSP minus 150, minus 140, minus 130. And that's, you know, once again, it resembles my feelings. You know, both of these guys are veterans. Both of these guys have the ability to put the other guy out. OSP, man, that head kick against Corey Anderson when he was 2 rounds down, beautiful. Ben Rothwell can go 7 or 8 minutes where he just doesn't look like he should be inside the UFC, inside the octagon at all, and then he lands a nasty bomb. This fight really can go either way, and I'm not going to play it in a lot of bets. Maybe one bet at most for OSP. Alright, homies, main event time. If you haven't Calvin Kattar elbow smashed the like button, I'm sure you're going to do that. And if you're not going to do that, I'm sure you're going to use some nasty type of technique or a funny technique, and let me know in the comments. We'd love to see these comments. Let's keep them going. Alright, main event. We have Anthony Lionheart Smith versus Glover Teixira. This is a very, very good match. I love this main event. Both of these guys are good fighters, man. We're going to start with Lionheart. Lionheart comes into this fight 8-3 inside the UFC. Primarily a hard worker inside the octagon. A former middleweight fighter. Since stepping up to 205, he does seem to be a better fighter. Smith is looking to display dog-like mentality inside the octagon. Even if you have his number and you're just more superior in every way, the way John Jones was against Smith, he's looking to be a Lionheart, man. He's not going to quit in there. Even if you have his number, he's going to keep going and going and going. He's going to bite down on his mouthpiece and stick in there with you. His conditioning for 205 seems very, very good. He's long. He has very good boxing, good straight boxing. His BJJ, in my opinion, underrated. You know, you don't choke out Gustafsson if you haven't got really, really good BJJ. I saw him live in Germany against Shogun. Sharp, beautiful boxing, long boxing from Anthony Smith, man. This guy is a Lionheart. He is a dog, and he's not going to quit in there. That's one thing you're going to get with Anthony Smith, man. You're going to have to really hurt this guy to put him away, you know. And we've seen that with Thiago Santos, right? You have to really hurt Anthony Smith to put him away. Glover Teixira comes into this fight 13 wins, 5 losses inside the UFC. A veteran inside the octagon with 20 years of fight experience. Glover is your typical stand and sleep you type of guy. He's looking to use his boxing, that punching power. However, if Glover feels he has a grappling advantage, he will take you down and work towards a submission. We find evidence of that against Carl Roberson and Cutelaba. Glover will look to grapple you if he feels that's his best path to victory. Looking at Glover's last fight against Krylov, that was a very, very close fight. Really good fight from both guys. In my opinion, could have gone either way. But you have to give credit to Glover, man. You know, 40 years old, 41 years old. No quitting him. He's a veteran. He's not going to give up unless you really hurt him too. And we find evidence of that over his whole career. You know, Rumble Johnson got it done very quickly, and it was a nasty haymaker, I believe an uppercut, sent the gum shield flying. Gustafsson, 25 minutes, was able to end the fight in a video game type of way with those uppercuts at the end. You really have to put away Glover to stop this guy coming forward too. I like this main event matchup. Could Glover implement a grappling-based game plan? Maybe he does. But Smith is long, man. He's going to be quicker and maybe tougher than Glover too. Smith is going to pop that jab, use a variety of kicks to keep Glover at bay. And footwork is also going to be a key factor in dictating and dominating a guy like Glover. You look at the footwork and boxing with Gustafsson a few years ago against Glover that I just mentioned. I really feel that Smith could actually produce a performance similar to that. Just a composed boxing performance with consistent footwork. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Anthony Smith via TKO in round number 3. And we take a look at some odds. Here we go. Smith coming in -175, -165. Man, even -200 is a little high. Glover coming back +140, +150. Yeah, I mean, you would have Glover as an underdog. He is getting on a bit. He has taken quite a bit of damage. He has got good boxing and punching power that we spoke about. But Smith is long, man. He's got good boxing too. I just feel more comfortable putting my money on Anthony Smith there. You know, this guy's a dog. He's not going to quit in there. You're going to have to put him out. And I'm sure he is grappling a lot to be able to keep up with Glover in that area, you know. And like I said, Anthony Smith has really underrated BJJ too. So it's not like Glover's just going to go in there, take the back and choke him. Smith is a workhorse on the mat and on the feet, you know. Very, very good main event. But I'm going to stick with Anthony Smith there. Okay, guys, as always, I've enjoyed doing this breakdown. Wednesday night is this card, and then we have another fight card on Saturday. As always, leave down your comments. Let me know your parlays, your doubles, your singles. Just let's get engaging. Let's do it all again. We did it for 249. We're going to do it for this card, and we're going to keep it going and going and going. All right, guys. Peace.